Welcome to Maths with Jade. In this video tutorial, we will be doing index notation and the laws of indices, but this is part 2, so do make sure you've seen part 1 first. In the previous video, part 1, you should have written these somewhere in the corner of your page. Well, we're going to add 2 more laws to it today, which will complete our laws of indices. So let's look at law number 5, and this is negative indices. Let's look at descending powers of 3. We're going to fill this out and see if we spot a pattern. So 3 to the power of 3 is 27, 3 squared is 9, 3 to the power 1 is 3, anything to the power of 0 is 1. So that's all we can fill in for now, unless we spot a pattern. And look, I can divide by 3 each time. So if I reduce the power by 1, I am dividing by the base number. So 3 to the minus 1 will give me 1/3, and 3 to the negative 2 will give me 1/9. Now let's compare 3 to the positive 1 and 3 to the negative 1. Well, 1 gives me 3, 1 gives me 1/3. Now let's compare 3 to the positive 2, which is 9, and 3 to the negative 2, which is 1/9. Surely, using this information, if I want to find 3 to negative 3, I just look at 3 to the power of 3 and do 1 over that result. So 1/27. And there is your 5th law of indices. If you have a to the negative m, that is equal to 1 over a to the positive m. Please add that to your laws of indices. So if I have 4 to the negative 2, I just need to do 1 over 4 squared, which we know is 1/16. If I have 2 to the negative 5, I need to do 1 over 2 to the positive 5, which is 1/32. And if we have a to the negative 1, that is 1 over a to the positive 1, which is just 1 over a. Moving on then to our final law, law number 6, and this is fractional indices. Really not my favourite law at all. To illustrate this, let's have a little look at 4 to the power of a half and multiply it by 4 to the power of half. Because using the multiplication law, we know that's 4 to the power 1, which is just 4. Well, what times by itself to make 4? 2 does. So 4 to the power of a half is equal to 2. And we can do the same thing with 9 to the power of a half. Times it by 9 to the power of half. Well, we know that gives us 9. But what times by itself also gives us 9? 3 does. Although you could actually argue minus 3 does as well, but let's save that for another video. One more example. 8 to the power of a third times 8 to the power of a third times 8 to the power of a third. Well, we know that has to equal 8 to the power of 1, which is just 8. So what number times by itself 3 times to make 8? Well, it has to be 2. So 8 to the power of a third is therefore equal to 2. If you haven't spotted a pattern already, let's just have a little look at them side by side. So 4 to the power of a half is 2, 9 to the power of a half is 3, 25 to the power of a half is 5, 8 to the power of a third is 2. But what have we learned from that? Well, hopefully you should be able to conclude that if I have a number and I want to raise it to the power of a half, then I just square root that number. If I have a number and it's raised to the power 1/3, I cube root that number. If I have a number and it's raised to the power 1/4, I find the 4th root. Which means if I have x to the power of 1 over m, I need to find the mth root of x. Here's a tiny little task to see if you have grasped that concept. Find the value of these 4 numbers. Pause the video now. So here's what you should have got. Unfortunately though, there isn't always a 1 on top of the fraction. However, we can do something quite clever if we know how to find the nth root. Well, I'm going to take the nth root of a, and then I just use brackets to raise that to the power of n. And using the brackets rule, we can see that those 2 expressions are equivalent. So let's write this in a more pleasing way that you're more likely to remember. So a to the power of n over m is the nth root of a to the power of n. You can actually do the root and the power in any order, however I always like to nth root it first because then I'm working with smaller numbers. Please add that to your laws of indices. I know some of you might be getting a headache right now, but don't worry, I'm going to go through some examples of this with you, and I did warn you, it wasn't my favourite law. Example number 1, find the value of 8 to the power of 5 over 3. Well, we know that 8 to the power of 5 over 3 is the cube root of 8 to the power of 5 using the law we just wrote down. Well, the cube root of 8 is 2 and 2 to the power of 5 is 32. Example number 2, I need to rewrite an expression into a different form. Well, using my fractional indices law, I know that I can replace my bracket with x to the power of a half. And then I can use my brackets law to simplify, so 3 times by 1/2, which I can leave it as 3 over 2. On to my third and final example then. Evaluate 64 to the power negative 1/3. Well, first I know that negative is 1 over the positive version and a third is a cubed root. So what is the cubed root of 64? Well, 4 times 4 times 4 gives 64, so my final answer is 1/4. Now it's time for you to practice with all the laws of indices. So here is a selection of easy, medium and challenging questions for you to have a go at. Please pause the video now. Here are the solutions with some working out so you can see where you went wrong, if you went wrong. And like I said, this was a mixture of easy to challenging questions. So if you didn't get 100%, that's absolutely okay. Just have a little look at what you can do better next time. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Index Notation and the Laws of Indices Part 2 of 2 and Maths with Jade. Please do like this video if you found it useful. Subscribe to my channel, share this video and comment below if you wish to. Have a lovely day.